Right, so in today's job, today, it might take a few days to be honest, I'm going to be raising the floor in this space. So previously when I walked through the bathroom, the shower's going to go over here, and there simply just wasn't enough runoff to get the water out of the shower basically. So there's a saw pipe running behind the walls here, so the idea is we'll raise the floor. It's not going to be much, around 4 inches, so I literally use 2x4 as my guide. I've checked and it's just about enough runoff. And I'll run through the wall and then into the saw stack. So that's the height we need to get to. The alternative would have been not raising the floor in this space, but then we would have to go down into the kitchen and then have a box out of the pipe running down to the kitchen and then pick up on the saw pipe. To be honest, I didn't really want that because ultimately when someone's having a shower, then if you're standing in the kitchen, you're just going to hear that water coming through. So opted for raising the floor. So this whole space is going to be raised. There's some repairs to do as well. We've got some big chunky holes in the floor. And then we'll repair those and then we can build the floor up from there. So there's going to be a couple of stages really. The first one being general repairs. So I've got some big gaps. I'll show you in more detail in a minute. Once we're doing the general repairs, and we know where we stand there, then we're going to start creating our floor. We already know roughly where things are going to go, but there's a bit of measuring to do with the shower tray as well. And then we'll build the floor up, and then the last piece will be just creating a sort of timber structure along the brickwork here, and that's just to create the edge of the raised floor. And then finishing it all off, we'll be plywooding on top. So loads of different tools for the job today really, you can see, but I'll quickly whiz through them. So where I'll start is music. I mean, that's a dead cert. I've got some levels, my normal little level that I use. I've been using this even smaller one from time to time actually. Today I am going to try, I've used it a bit, the laser level. More so because I can see the level across the room as well and see where I pick up in case I need to make any adjustments along the way. I've got my set square as well, so I can make sure my cuts are straight. Might need it, might not. Lump hammer if I need to knock a few things in. I mean, that's a bit of a heavy one to be using for this job, but it'll be fine. I've got an array of screws, so some small leftover screws to fix down the existing planks, repairs and things like that. I've got some speed screws, 2 packs of these. I mean, speed screws is your dream. If you haven't got an impact drill, which I now have, an impact driver, having these speed screws absolutely makes it a doddle drilling into wood. Great things. So I've got 2 sizes. One really just to join timbers together, and then these ones are a little bit longer, and I'll use these to drive down the timbers into the existing floor. There's nothing to be worried about underneath the floor. There's no electrics running. The pipework is way below, so I'm fine in that space as well. Last piece on screws. These bad boys, and what these will be doing will be attaching the timber I'll be having across the concrete wall into the concrete. You don't need any, you don't need to pre-drill or have any plugs for these. You can drill straight in. So I'll talk through that bit when I get to it in a bit more detail. I've got my laser measure as well. I've got a tape measure which I might use, but I could also use the laser measure. Tool wise, obviously impact driver. It's a must really. Well, say a must, you can do one. I've got my angle grinder. It's only if I really feel I need to take a bit more away from the wall here to get my timbers on. Hopefully nothing at all, and I can just bed a piece of a bit of mortar on top really. And then a new toy, a circular saw. If you haven't realised, I'm a big fan of the Works brand. Just handed me all the batteries. I don't know how many tools I've got now, but I've only got about 4 batteries and it's fine for the whole piece. So I've got this really so I can make some good straight cuts when I repair some timbers or when I create my new timber structure. Certainly for the plywood I'll be using this, so I need that for there. And as well, to be honest, it's raining a lot outside today, so the idea being I can do all the work in this space. So I've got my works, work stand as well. In worst cases I'll have to go outside, get the miter saw to make some cuts up. I should be okay. Then I've also got some chipboard, so I'll use this for some of the lower level repairs. If the existing floorboards that are dotted around are in real bad shape, can't be used, so I'll make some cuts out of this. I've also got the 2x4 over here, and just one piece. I've got a few metres, probably about 10-12 metres outside to create this floor over here. Probably won't need that much. I've got plywood. This isn't the plywood I'll be using, just for easy to talk over. So this is only about 5-6mm, whereas we'll be using, I think it's up to about 18mm. I'll double check that when I build it out. Outside of that, I think that's pretty much all the tools. Any other bits and pieces, is some sand and cement and some water. I need a small amount, so this trowel will do. I'll hand mix it, and that'll be for my bed that I'll be lying across the bottom there. Other than that, that's pretty much it. The goal is to raise the floor, have the timber structure in place, plywood on top but not screwed down, pretty much ready then, because I've got my level to work off from the toilet, how high I'm going to put the sink over here, and then how high I'm going to put in the shower bits and pieces. So it's all about creating the floor, then I've got my level, then I can work on the next few jobs. So I'll crack on and I'll give you an update on the next step. Just a super quick video. So the repairs I need to make, I had to cut a hole in this floor before. I was doing some pipe work. So I've got some leftover planks, which I think, to be honest, look in okay condition. I'll lay these down, see if they're sturdy enough. I've got a slight problem over here though, because I want that to be sturdy. So what I might do is get another piece of timber in between these two floorboards to put underneath, so I then have a firm surface to put the last pieces on top. So I'll probably do that as well. Everything else in this space is okay. The bit over here I was talking about, this is an old brick wall which is cut down because we created this bigger space. So it's not quite level to the surface here. So the intention is I'll probably have a piece of 2x4 along this side, and then that side there I will build up with some sand and cement, some mortar, bed it on top, and I've got a nice flat surface, and then this whole area will be ready then for the plywood. So I'm going to crack on and I'll show you the different stages I get to. Quick update on the repair. Doesn't look like much, but these two floorboards were salvageable. They're really sturdy, they're not moving at all. I did lay and cut and lay these two pieces of chipboard down to begin with, but it was just a tiny bit, had a tiny bit of flexing. So rather than take that chance of any movement at all, I whipped those up and I reinforced the joists. So joists run along here, here and here. Just with 2x4, not another joist. And then also had a 2x4 running across as well, so there's no flex at all left in these pieces of chipboards. They're pretty solid, because I wanted a really solid surface, because now I'm going to start laying my 2x4s to create the sort of new raised floor, and I'll move on to that in the next video. Right, so just a quick update. So I've now got my made up floor running across the whole of this space. A little bit trickier than I was hoping, because this side of the room was ever so slightly lower than this side, so I had to make it up. So this piece of wood here is just an example, because I was trying to work out what I wanted to do. Originally, when I was looking at the different heights to get it level, these were raised by 20mm perhaps, and I thought I didn't really want to put spaces under there knowing I've got to put multiple layers on top. It didn't feel quite right. So this piece of wood here is an example of what I had to do, what I did in the end. There was a decent video on YouTube I found, and I got some advice from a friend as well. Ultimately, instead of raising these and putting space underneath, I cut down or spliced down these floor joists, which I split into already, and then I made them the necessary angle, so it leveled on top, and then also I met the floor underneath. So all of these were slightly out. All of them were specifically cut for each run. Then what I finished with, I've got my gap across the top there. That's where my water waste is going to go for the shower. So I might do some reinforcement around there, we'll see. And then I added in some noggins as well, just for extra stability. I think for the size of the space, probably wasn't needed. Certainly because I've got some 22mm ply, but I figured I've got the excess timber now. I might as well get it there, knowing it's absolutely solid. Next thing I'm going to be doing is down here. So because the floor is going to be meeting this line here, which is the toilet wall's going to be over here, I'm going to be making this up with timber. So I've already cut the lengths. And then what I'll likely be doing is adding in some mortar underneath to get the height to match the height over here. And then once that's done, I'll bed them on top, let it go off, and then I'll screw down with some concrete screws, but I'll show you that in the next video. So for now, pretty much done in this space, and then I'll start working on these pieces here in a little bit. Okay, so that's me wrapping up this next stage, this next step. Slight change of plan for when I was fixing these timbers down. So originally I was planning to lay a bed of mortar and then lay the 2x4s on top to get my level, and then also extend it out past this awkward little step here. Instead, what I ended up doing was not adding another material, so skip the mortar, didn't skip it, just decided not to. And instead, the brick underneath was in actually not so bad shape. So instead I sort of chiselled away to give myself a flat level surface. And then I lay a 2x4 on its widey side down. And then my intention was then to run 2 runs on top to give me the thickness, and then I had to splice those down, so I had to trim them off. That all worked out fine. That's pretty solid. So pretty solid, it's not going anywhere, and that'll be essentially the entry point into this raised area. So the next steps now is essentially to plywood this space. I was going to plywood the whole space and then cut out my shower space, but it's a bit stupid really. So instead, I'm just going to plywood this space. And it's ready, the surface is there, I can see how firm it is. I won't glue, I won't nail it in or screw it in just yet. I'll wait until I've done the plumbing. but at least I'll get it down and I know the surface is good. And then what I'll do next is lay the shower tray in there, get my plumbing set up and test connected. And then once all that's in, I can then lay the timbers here, fix those in place and be good to go. So for now this bit's done, and I'll move on to the plywood stage next. Okay, just a really brief update. I'm just about to start measuring out and cutting the plywood floor for this raised area here. What I thought I'd do instead is cut and just dry fit my my shower tray former. So there's a couple of little cuts I need to make to fit it into the space and around the brickwork as well. So I figured I'd get that in place first, make sure everything's lined up, everything's fine, and then I'll cut my wood to meet this. I won't actually be fitting this properly in this video. I'll do the whole shower area at a later point. But for now, at least, I needed to cut this so I knew where I was going to land with my plywood. So I'll leave it there for now. I'll cut my plywood and I'll bring it up in a bit. Okay, just one quick update. I now have my plywood down, so it's resting quite nicely on the 2x4s and the rest of the wood underneath. I ended up going for a full sheet or a full size sheet within this space here, and then I've gone for a sliver down here, just on the basis that there's going to be no footfall along there really. There's going to be a toilet hanging off the wall here, and then a very small corner space. I can't imagine any weight will take place, so I went for and opted for a big piece here. As mentioned previously, I did have to cut the shower tray former as well to fit in. Originally I had it dog legging a little bit, the wood here. Instead I went for a clean line on the basis that's where the shower glass will go, but I'll cover off that in a separate video. So for now, plywood's down, it's pretty sturdy, and I'll give you a summary update in the next video. Okay, so pretty much done now. Plywood's down. Mentioned just previously I went for a sliver at the back just because I wanted a full sheet here. It's quite sturdy, it's not screwed down yet, but I'll be screwing it and gluing it in a later phase. Just to recap across the steps then, so I had my subfloor that I needed to raise up, roughly 4 inches, 2x4 was my guide to begin with. On the basis that should be enough for the runoff to go out here, which I'll be fitting in the next video, one of the next videos. I created similar lines along the joist, so it gives me this nice spacing, and then I'll reinforce with a couple of noggins as well. So what I will do is I'll screw a few pieces down, see how sturdy it is, and if I'm overall happy with it, I'll leave as is. If not, I'll add in a couple of noggins, but I think it'll be largely fine. So it was the subfloor raising with the mini joist to begin with. That was a hassle. If you still recall the earlier video, I had to cut slivers of them down to compensate for the different heights versus this is level now. Then I had the pieces going across as well, and then I eventually put my plywood on top. So it'll be a very basic job. It was a big headache at the start. Now it's done, I can move on to the next phase. Now I've got the height of the overall space up. You know, it's not super high, right, but I'm pretty short, so it's fine. I now know how high I can make everything else. So I know how high I can put my shower, can plan that better. The sink is going to go over here, and the toilet as well. So I'll generally spend my next few videos just covering off the space here to get everything in, plumbed in, holes cut in walls, and then move on to the next phase. But for the next job, I'll probably be getting my plumbing sorted here for my drain and my waste off. And I'll show you some videos behind the wall as well for doing that. And then I'll start doing the wet work as well then. So fitting the shower over here, fitting the sink over here, and the taps over here, and then fitting the toilet over here. And I'll cover those afterwards. Right, see you in a bit.